What happens when all the cheers in the world stop and you're alone? He used to have hit songs that made the charts, a voice that could quiet crowds, and a love story that everyone wanted. But there was always something darker going on behind the music and the smile. For what reason did Seal disappear all of a sudden? What battles did he fight in silence while cameras flashed and fans yelled his name? How did the man who used to put on huge shows end up living alone and being haunted by things no one saw? Nobody saw Seal's life change after he became famous, and it changes everything you thought you knew about him. Early life and rise to fame. A long time ago, Seal could hear the roar of packed stadiums everywhere he went. The sound of his speech could stun a crowd and make them silent. It's not as loud now though, and his life is very different from how it used to be. Seal has had to deal with some pretty bad things in his life. It didn't start today though. Even in his early years in youth, he faced heartbreaking problems and had life-changing events that changed everything. Seal was just a boy lost in London's grey streets for a long time before he became a voice that could shake the world. In 1963, he was born to parents from Nigeria and Brazil. His early life was not safe at all. The whole name of this person is Seal Henry Olusegun Oluma Adeola. Samuel took the weight of his rich cultural background with him, but that didn't keep him from facing the harsh realities of a hard childhood. From the start, different things in his life pulled him in different ways. His parents were both young and having a hard time, so they weren't always there. Even though money was tight, things were even less stable. Not long after Seal was born, his parents made the sad choice to put him in foster care. This would leave him with deep emotional scars that would never show up on his body. Seal lived with a foster family in Paddington, London, for the first few years of his life. It looked pretty normal for a while. His foster home was smoother and safer than anything his real parents could provide at the time. But Seal also had a feeling of being different, a deep-seated sense that he didn't quite fit in. He always felt detached because he knew he wasn't with his parents but with that person. This feeling followed him around like a ghost even after he had grown up. He was finally sent back to live with his real parents when he was 4 years old. After that, things got worse. His mother had a lot of emotional and financial problems, so it was hard for her to get back in touch with the son she had given up years before. It was hard for them to get along from the start. There was love, but it was often hidden by stress, misunderstandings, and needs that weren't met. His father, on the other hand, was more strict and mean. Seal's childhood stories often give the impression of a home where fear and strict rules cross the line into something quite wrong. Seal once said that his childhood was more about getting by than being happy. It showed that while other kids learned to dream big, Seal learned how to get ready for being let down. These things, the instability, the loneliness, and the need for safety, didn't just make Seal the boy he was. They helped him become the artist he would become. He would still be looking for the love he couldn't get from his parents and fans years later, even after he had reached the top of the music business. "People tell me they like my music," he said one time. "That is truly amazing. It's like the love I thought my parents would give me. The love I wish my dad would give me. The kind where he wraps his arm around me and says, 'Hey Seal, you did a great job.' Like my dad never taught me that." Seal became interested in music even as he lay dying because his elementary school teacher pushed him to sing and even made him do it in front of his parents at a school show. After that, his love for music grew very strong. Seal was interested in music in more than one way. It had to be done. It was where he could let out all the feelings he wasn't allowed to show as a child. The rage, the sadness, and the strong need to be seen and loved without any conditions. He was different at school. He wasn't the biggest or most sure of himself. He instead watched, listened, and took in the feelings of those around him, storing them deep inside. But Seal's ability to understand and care about other people's feelings would become one of his greatest gifts. The way he sings. The way his voice strains and cracks at just the right times. Makes you feel like he's going through every broken heart with you. Seal didn't quickly become famous in the music world after moving around a lot and having a hard time as a teenager. He did study building for a while because he needed to make money to stay alive. Sad to say, dreams were a luxury he could not afford. Instead, he hustled himself to do odd jobs to keep moving forward. There was always music though, just below the surface. He started singing in clubs around town and playing backup for smaller bands. He did anything to get on stage. His voice was beautiful, even when it wasn't polished or polished at all. People not only heard his words but also felt it. It wasn't like the bubblegum pop that was all over the radio in the late 1980s. Seal's sound came from a deep place where there was pain, hope, and a will to live. But when Seal joined the British funk band Push, things really changed. He learned what it's like to be a musician for the first time when he went on tour with them. But what was more important was that it got him out of London. During his trip through Asia, he slept anywhere he could find a crack spot and sang in clubs in back alleys. Those tough experiences made him stronger, but they also made him bigger. Every broken heart, lonely hotel room, and crowd that didn't care about him found its way into his soul and into his songs. When Seal went back to England in the late 1980s, he wasn't just another artist who was having a hard time. He had learned a very special skill: how to be real. In 1990, the stars finally aligned to save him. Born at Amsky, he met a musician who had just made a song called Killer. After Seal sang on the song, almost everything changed overnight. Killer wasn't just a hit, it was a huge deal. Many people heard Seal's raw, disturbing voice for the first time when it topped the charts in the UK. The success of this song opened up all the doors Seal had thought were shut for good. By 1991, he had put out his first record as a solo artist, Seal, which was produced by the great Trevor Horn. Rhythm and blues, soul rock, and electronic music were all mixed in a stunning way to make the album very emotional. Some of his songs, like Crazy, showed how beautiful chaos could be, while others showed how vulnerable he was. But the thing that drew people to Seal most was that he wasn't trying to be someone else. The world couldn't get enough of him. The way he spoke, looked, and just being there gave off the heavy, beautiful weight of a boy who had been through things that no one would ever fully understand. Growing up, Seal had to deal with being left alone, hard times, and love that wasn't easy. This taught him how to survive. On top of that, it let him connect with millions of people in a way that not many artists can. A lot of people around the world knew Seal almost right away. Then came the awards. So did trips that were full. But a much quieter and more heartbreaking battle had been going on beneath the cheers, the high-pitched singing, and the strong presence. One that began a long time before anyone knew his name. To the world, Seal's health battles. Seal's voice was so powerful that it could shake anywhere, but he was really dealing with some sad truths, like the one that caused that famous scar on his face. People didn't fully understand Seal's health problems when he was a young adult. A type of lupus called discoid lupus erythematosus set in on him when he was only 21 years old. People usually think of systemic lupus as attacking internal organs, but discoid lupus only affects the skin, leaving behind painful, unsightly sores that are often inflamed and scarred. It was clear that Seal's lupus had left its mark on his face. The scars are permanent and gave him the deep, noticeable lines that have become part of his look. But long before they became famous, they caused a lot of pain, loneliness, and heartbreak. It was already hard for the young boy to find his place in the world, and the scars made things even worse. Kids can be mean, and Seal had to deal with rude words and stares all the time. Lupus was hard for people to understand. They didn't know why a boy so young would have such deep wounds. Instead, people were quick to question, insult, and judge him in a way that hurts deeper than any disease ever could. He later said that the scars made him feel different, but not in the way that most artists want to feel. He was hurt by it. He wanted to hide and wondered if anyone could really see him through the scars on his skin and into the person he was. They were in a lot of pain, though. Disco lupus gave Seal a lot of physical problems that he has had to deal with his whole life. Being tired became a regular companion. Even though he looked strong on stage, there were times when his body wouldn't work with him, and getting out of bed was like climbing a rock. Joint pain would sometimes come on suddenly, making it hard for him to move and making even easy tasks hard to do. Lupus was an invisible enemy that never really went away for someone whose life turned into performing, recording, traveling, and entertaining huge crowds. It wasn't possible to plan for being tired during a trip or recording session. In order to do shows, interviews, and travel, Seal had to push through pain that sometimes felt like it was betraying him from the inside out. Still, he didn't talk about it in public for years. He didn't try to explain himself or beg for forgiveness. Rather than talking about it, he carried the weight of it in silence, putting all of his anger and pain into his music. Seal didn't just talk about love, loss, pain, and healing in his songs. It was a real experience because every raw note held the struggles that most fans didn't even know he was going through. But Seal refused to let lupus define him, even though it left scars and caused him pain. He once said that the illness made him stronger. Early on in life, it made him face the truth that perfection is a lie and that beauty, power, and success don't come from having an easy life, but from getting through one. He used to want to hide his scars, but they became a part of his story. They made him unique and memorable, and in the end, they made him proud. He said once, "Something that was kind of scary at first turned out to be something that made me instantly recognizable. I knew right away that this body is not who we are. I got away with it." Seal's failure to hide his scars or have surgery to get rid of them said a lot. In a field where looks are everything, he stood tall, clearly different, and very real. He did more than just look different from what a singing star should be like. He broke it up. His fans loved him for it. But even after accepting the lupus, the fight went on in the background. Getting along with his body was something he had to learn how to do all the time. He had to take it easy, watch out for signs of trouble, and keep his energy up. The world asked too much of him, but he gave it his all. It had effects on more than just the person's health, though. It made me feel things too, and it had an even bigger effect. Being sick from a young age and being able to see it changed Seal's view of the world and himself. He knew exactly what it meant to be rejected. Not just being turned down in a relationship, but also because you are different and people judge you before you even speak. Being able to understand gave his music a depth that not many others could match. Lupus wasn't the only thing Seal had to fight, though. There were problems with both physical and mental health. Seal even admitted that he has had anxiety and panic attacks for many years. It all started when he was recording in a studio and had a huge panic attack. Seal told them it was so bad that he was honestly sure they were having a heart attack. He was finally taken to the hospital, where he was treated and later given a diagnosis. Talking about his mental health problems and how they have changed his life. He said, "It's given me such empathy and understanding for people who can't get help. There's no shame. Getting help and talking about it is not a bad thing. it needs to be shared, whether it's with a therapist or a friend. Though Seal has had problems with his physical and mental health, he has also had some very sad problems in his personal life, mostly with love, marriage, and divorce. When Seal first found his fairy tale ending, it seemed like everything was going to be okay. Love finally came into his life like a lightning bolt after a lifetime of hard fights with his health, his education, and his own sense of belonging. Her name was Heidi Klum. Back in the early 2000s, Seal and Heidi met for the first time. It was like they were in a movie. Heidi was a German supermodel and TV personality who was famous all over the world. Seal, on the other hand, was at the top of his game, with a haunting voice and a strong stage presence. They met by chance in the hallway of a hotel in New York City. This meeting would change both of their lives forever. They went on their first date 5 weeks after meeting. But Heidi was already pregnant with her daughter Lainey from a bad relationship she had before. She didn't meet Seal by chance, though. He really did step up. He was there for her while she was pregnant and loved Lenny like his own child. She felt like Seal was more than just a partner from the start. He was a safe place to be, and a promise of true, long-lasting love. Seal saw Heidi as a symbol of something he had always wanted but never really believed he could have. She was family, stability, and acceptance no matter what. In fact, Seal said in an interview that he was so sure Heidi was the one when they first started dating that he didn't have time for the typical dance that couples do before they get married. I was completely clear in a relationship for the first time in my life, and I knew what I had to do. Some close family and friends were with them when they finally got married in May 2005 on a beach in Mexico. They wanted the service to be small, personal, and simple. And it was just that. For Seal, it was the beginning of a new story that seemed almost too good to be true. They quickly became a family together. Seal gave Lenny his last name to make it clear that he was his child. They had 3 more children together, a daughter named Lou, 2 sons named Henry and Johan, and a daughter named Johan. It was loud, crowded, and a mess in the house, and it was heaven for a man who had grown up in a foster home in a crazy place. He now had the family he had only dreamed of during the worst nights of his youth. The love they had wasn't just between them, it was open to everyone. They said their vows again every year in big romantic ceremonies, in front of family and close friends some of the time. It almost turned into a routine, as if they were trying to make their love stronger with each year that went by. It's so special to us, something we love and something our kids have grown used to. They once said about the tradition, "Hey, mom and dad love each other, and every year they get married." But their kids weren't the only ones who were impressed. The whole world saw them and fell in love with them. Seal and Heidi didn't seem likely to be hurt. They had every good thing going for them. They want beauty, fame, skill, and most of all, each other. But cracks were appearing behind the glossy photos and magazine covers. At first, it was slow and hard to see, but over time, it turned into cracks that sometimes even the strongest love can't fix. By 2012, the fairy tale was no longer true. Seal and Heidi shocked people all over the world when they said they were splitting up, saying they couldn't get along anymore. In a joint statement, the couple said, "After much soul-searching, we have decided to separate. We have enjoyed 7 very loving, loyal, and happy years of marriage. During our relationship, we have always had the utmost respect for each other, and we still love each other very much. We are no longer together, though." It was even more shocking for fans. When 2 people renewed their vows and built a beautiful family, they looked like they were very much in love. So how could they break up? But Seal's pain was much worse than just being let down by the people. It wasn't just the end of a marriage. He had worked so hard to build a life, and now it was over. He grew up without a solid family of his own, so losing the one he had made was like being pulled back into the darkness he thought he had gotten away from. The breakup wasn't very bad. There were no nasty public fights or messy scandals in the tabloids. Instead, there was sadness and a quiet kind of heartbreak that didn't make the news but hurt very much. Seal stayed mostly polite in talks after the breakup. It was okay for love to change and for people to move apart even if they didn't want to. He seemed calm on the outside, but it was clear that he wasn't just going through a split. It made him sad. Heidi finally admitted that her marriage wasn't always happy, but she demanded that the public not know about their marriage problems. "People don't need to know who did what," she said. "I don't want to say anything good or bad about the good and bad times we had. Each and every pair goes through things. We are in public, so the highs are out there. But I don't think it's necessary for the lows to be talked about and printed in magazines, especially for our kids." Seal's life became much quieter after the divorce. He didn't marry someone famous right away or show off his new partners in front of the cameras. Instead, he chose to think about his children, who were the only thing he still had. Being a parent became his center. He stayed very active in the lives of his children. He and Heidi shared custody of them and worked hard to keep close ties with all of them. He talked a lot about how much being a dad meant to him and how important it was to be there for his kids even when their family changed. But as any parent who has been split knows, co-parenting isn't always easy. There were rumors that Seal and Heidi were fighting over travel plans, child custody, and lifestyle choices. Seal used to love the idea of a family living together in one house, but now he had to deal with shared holidays, different homes, and new routines. Heidi did move on, and in the end she married German artist Tom Cowitz. Seal did not talk much about his relationships though. In 2021 he allegedly started going out with Laura Strayer, who used to be his personal assistant. As of now though, there are no new marriages or big news. Seal seemed to have turned inward in many ways, choosing to be alone over the risk of another heartbreak. It was clear that the breakup and its aftermath had a big effect on her feelings. He kept putting out music and performing, but things were different with him. He seemed like a different person. He was a little less talkative and more careful. The same man who used to sing love songs without thinking twice now seemed cautious in interviews and had a sadness just below the surface. His main goal was to be a good parent, and he was often seen making memories with his kids by going on trips, attending their sports events, and spending quality time with them. He made it clear that his kids would always come first, even though co-parenting was hard at times. But even the bad thing that happened when he lost the family he had always dreamed of couldn't have prepared him. Seal because of the sad and lonely life he had to live in the end. Getting older, being alone, and life now. Once upon a time Seal's music was everywhere and his voice filled arenas with roaring fans. But now that I'm 62 years old, those sounds have changed into something much softer. The last full record Seal would ever make was called Standards and came out in 2017. It didn't have a lot of brand new songs. Instead, it was a salute to the old favorites he loved as a child. The songs were about love, loss, and hope. The theme Seal always sang with a lot of feeling. There was no rush for him to make more albums after Standards though. He wasn't after the top of the charts or trying to beat out younger stars. Instead, he stepped back and became very selective about the shows he put on. He would show up on some TV shows and work with other people on a few projects here and there. Things have changed in the music world. People were making pop stars on TikTok, and people had less time to pay attention. Seal didn't want to play that game though. He's made it clear that he doesn't care about how many streams he gets or how popular he becomes. Sad to say, the spotlight moved on slowly, leaving him in a much quieter place than before. But Seal's body had also started to send him painful signs at the same time. He had never had an easy time living with lupus. He has had this autoimmune disease since he was in his 20s. Even though he has scars on his face, they don't show how hard his life is. Every day he fights tiredness, joint pain, and inflammation. As he got older, in his 50s and now his 60s, it became harder to ignore those signs. It used to be easy for him to perform, but finally even that got old for him. Long trips got tiring, and it took longer to get better. Even his rich, beautiful voice, which made him famous, needs more care right now. As he got older and had health problems, it became harder for him to keep his voice strong. He had to be smarter about how he spent his energy. He couldn't just ignore the pain like he could when he was younger. There were other ways he was slowing down as well. He used to give everything he had on stage. In fact, it hurt him emotionally too. In a world where sharing all the time is rewarded, Seal did the opposite by being less active. He doesn't post much on social media or do interviews very often, and he doesn't do any public pranks or desperate comebacks. He instead chose to live alone and focus on music at his own slow, steady pace. Yet the truth is that leaving fame isn't always easy, especially for someone who used to be at the center of it all. You might feel like you've lost a part of yourself when you lose that kind of success. Seal has spoken out about how hard this change was. After decades of being known everywhere you went and having millions of people care about your voice, face, and name, it's strange to feel like the world has moved on without you. The same fame that used to let him into every room now seemed to have quietly cut him off from everyday life. This change made me feel a lot of things. This is made even worse by the fact that he has been avoiding groups in public life he used to enjoy for years because of his anxiety. But here's the thing, he's not mad about these changes. He knows that things change in the world. Still, he does say that he sometimes feels like he's from a different age and an artist made for a time when music was about feelings instead of fans. Seal has always used music to deal with stress and express thoughts that are too heavy to put into words. But it's harder to ignore the bad feelings when you're not acting every night, and the adrenaline wears off. People still love Seal, even though the world's attention has been diverted, because they know what he's been through and just want to see him happy. Yes, he still sings because Seal does more than just sing for a living. He does it to stay alive and work through everything he's been through. People might not scream his name as much as they used to, but his voice is still important. His life may be less loud now, but it's even stronger, because the loudest wins are often the ones no one sees. What do you think? Should Seal come back into the light? Share your thoughts below.